Okay, so I want to share something, and I did a blog on it, and I think it's very important that you listen to this because I feel like this happens a lot, and well, it does happen a lot, but I mean, the reasoning behind it happens a lot, and my hope is that if by sharing this, someone somewhere, whether you're a kid, whether you're a parent, you'll hear it and you'll understand that all pain is temporary, and no matter what you're going through, it'll always get better. It can, because if it's as bad as it is, if you're literally hitting rock bottom, then there's nowhere to go but up. And that's not like Susie Sunshine bullshit talk, like that's real fucking talk. So there was a day where I almost killed myself. I was 14. I was living with my mom in Alberta. Prior to going to live with my mom in Alberta, I was raised by my grandparents, and we were living in Barrie at the time. And at 13, I got into a lot of shit. I had sex, I was smoking pot, and, getting into trouble. And at my grade 8 graduation, I got really hammered, and the mom who had the party told my grandmother what happened. So my grandparents thought that it would be helpful for me to go and stay with my mom in Alberta to maybe try to get me to connect with her. Looking back, I see that it was definitely a way to try to help me. But at the time, I felt like it just amplified my feelings of being a burden and being abandoned. And, I was becoming annoying and a troubled person, so they wanted to get rid of me, which I know wasn't the case. But back then, that's kind of how it felt. I'm day 3 of my juice cleanse. Feeling really good. A little hungry, but really good. Anyway, I digress. So I got out there in the summer before grade 9, and this is 2011. So, maybe a couple of days after school started, 9/11 hit. It was really weird, really somber in the school. And I don't know, I didn't fit in with anybody there. People didn't really like me. I started getting bullied. And, you can handle being bullied when you have friends and you have people around you that care about you at school. But when you're in a new province, you're in a new school, you don't know anybody. Like, I didn't have anybody. And I already felt like I didn't have anybody. So, I'm getting bullied. I was called like a white trash whore. People were throwing rocks at me when I was going to the bus after school. And I just didn't fit in. And it was really hard. And I started to hang out with this one girl who skipped school, got high, smoked, whatever. And, I started getting into trouble again. But the feeling that I had, and I don't know if it was because my mom was taking direction from my grandmother, whatever the case was, it felt like I was still being controlled. It felt like I was still being told what to do, how to do it, where to go, how to dress, how to look, how to act. And this is the thing, like, when we're becoming a teenager, all of these hormones are coming in, and when the hormones come in, we kind of become an adult biologically, but we're not an adult mentally and emotionally. So our physiology starts to change, our biology starts to change, but our mental and emotional stuff is still of the adolescent and youth mindset. So it's very confusing and it's very conflicting to have a childlike mindset and yet still have these start to have these adult emotions and feelings and hormones and whatnot. So it's really, really vital that you give your child some space to be an individual. I was not given that opportunity. I was not given that opportunity to express myself. Once in a while, I could pick out my clothes. Eventually, I got to pick out some of my clothes. But, up until I was like 13, 14, I was very heavily guided into what I could wear. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I wasn't allowed to dye my hair. I wasn't allowed to have any kind of expression. And when you're a teenager, like you're starting to discover who you are. You're just starting to try to get some kind of identity, some kind of individualism. Like you really want to start to make a statement and be like, who the fuck am I? And when that's repressed and that's you're not given an opportunity to do that, it's very damaging. And it at the time makes you want to rebel. At the time it just makes you feel like you're being fucking choked. And so, I felt like that, and I thought going to my mom's would maybe be different, and she was different. And but even when she would let me pick out my own clothes or let me wear makeup, like she'd say, don't tell Nana, like you can't tell your grandmother that she shouldn't say your grandmother, you can't tell Nana that I let you wear makeup, you can't tell Nana that I let you dress yourself. Like, it's fucked. All I wanted was to be an individual. Like, all I wanted to do was, like, if I was given the opportunity to experiment with my clothing or my hairstyle or whatever, things that were harmless, I most likely wouldn't have gone and wanted to experiment with boys so much, with smoking, with trying this drug, with doing this thing, like rebelling in this way. Because the rebellion was me trying to be an individual, me saying enough is enough, you're fucking smothering me. Let me be a little bit. So I got in trouble out in Alberta, and my mom, and again, I don't remember everything exactly, but I just remember I got grounded or something, and she wouldn't let me wear makeup. She took the makeup away, she took all the stuff away, and in that moment, I just was so filled with rage. I was so filled with anger and with rage, and I was just sick and fucking tired of everyone telling me who I could be. I was sick to fucking death. I was sick to death of being bullied. I was pissed off because I got shipped out to Alberta away from all my friends, the people that I felt actually cared about me, that actually understood me because they allowed me to be who I was. And my mom and my stepdad, they did the best that they could, and they created this great environment for me, but I still didn't feel the connection. And then I go out there and I'm trying to bond with my mom, and I just feel like it's another version of my grandmother, and I'm just being repressed and repressed and repressed and repressed. And in that moment, when she took the makeup away or whatever the fuck she took away, and you're grounded this, that, and the other thing, and I was just like, are you fucked? Like, I can't take this anymore. So in the moment, I didn't want to die, but I just thought, you know what, I'll fucking show you. You're taking away all my control. You know what I do have control over? And I took an entire bottle of pills and consumed them. An entire bottle, like I just took a handful and I just took them all. A full bottle of pills. I'll fucking show you. That was my 14-year-old mindset. There's no fucking way I wanted to die. I didn't want to end my life. But at that moment, I felt like there was no other option. I felt like this feeling that I had was going to last forever, and I didn't want to feel it anymore, and I just wanted to get away from it. And that's what happened in that moment. And that's what I really believe that a lot of kids feel. Not necessarily that exact thing of repression and control, but it's this feeling like it's the end of the world. And we make jokes as adults, like, oh yeah, everything's the end of the world with you kids. But when you don't have a fully developed brain, when you don't have, you don't necessarily have the skill set or the experience to deal with the emotions that are coming in. Like, you just go from having like normal emotions, and then all of these hormones start coming in, and you could feel like you're totally fucking nuts. And especially for girls, if nobody explained to me what the menstrual cycle was. Nobody explained to me what it meant to get my period, and how that would affect my hormones, and how they change, and how I get PMS, and what that means. And, no one explained that to me. So on top of all of this control and repression and inconsistent fucked upness, and, my grandmother was going into menopause too, right? So she was all fucked up on her own. And then not having anyone explain to me what was going on with the hormones, and then not having an opportunity to be an individual. And it's just like, like I was just, here's the water and here's me. And I just felt like I was fucking drowning. So I took the bottle of pills and I sat up in my room for a while, and then eventually they called me down to dinner. And I still remember sitting at the table, and then I started to feel really weird. I just started to feel like I wasn't in my body. I wasn't in my body. And I got this ringing in my ears, and my vision started to go blurry. And it was when my vision started to go blurry that I started to panic. And I remember I was afraid to tell them what I did, but I knew that I had to because I knew that something was really wrong. And I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something along the lines of like, please don't be mad, I have to tell you something. And my mom's like, what? And I'm like, I took a bottle of pills. And she took me to the emergency room. And I still remember the doctor so fucking angry at me. So angry at me. And this was impactful. This was impactful because like he changed my state, right? Like he shifted, like I was all fucked up because I was all high and shit, and then they gave me the charcoal stuff to make myself vomit so I could get rid of the shit in my body. And yeah. But he was like, how fucking dare you, kind of thing, right? How fucking dare you? Put your parents through that. Put the people that love you through that. Like, you want to end your life, why is your life so bad? Like, he was kind of a dick, but it stood out in my mind in the fact that, like, you know, shook me awake to the fact that things could be worse, whatever, and my life is valuable. But that night I spent in the hospital, drinking whatever that weird charcoal shit, and making myself vomit, and I felt really stupid, but I felt really relieved. I felt really relieved because that emotion that I was in, that heightened, that peak state of emotion that I was in, full of pain and rage and anger and whatever, that passed. And I, in my 14-year-old mindset, made almost a permanent decision in a temporary state of emotion. And this is what the majority of people do on a whole. Right? We make these decisions in these emotions, and we're not really thinking it through. But this is what happens. This is what happens with kids. And this is why it's so important to communicate with your kids. This is why it's so important to give them an open forum to speak to you, to listen to them. You know, like you can make jokes here and there. Oh yeah, your life is so hard. You have to go to school and come home. You may have some chores to do, big fucking whoop. And I agree to an extent that a lot of kids nowadays don't have enough adversity to drive them, to push them. But there's a fine line between adversity and abuse, and adversity and trauma, adversity and, you know, we don't want our kids to experience things that we've gone through in our lives. You know, the whole point of being a parent is to give them a better life than what you've had, so to speak. But and I know I don't know, maybe it won't resonate with some of you, but pain is pain. Period. We can't. And again, there's a fine line, because if I'm talking to a kid, I'm gonna say like, pain is pain. I acknowledge your pain. I acknowledge what you're going through. But at the same time, like, how do we get you out of that mindset of woe is me, my life is shit, by giving you an opportunity to see that it could be worse? So it's kind of a fine line between, let me show you how things can be fucking worse, because your life really isn't that hard, but simultaneously let's acknowledge the shit that you're going through and the pain that you're in, because pain is pain. And when you've only experienced certain things, that's your barometer. And, you know, it's part of the human brain, it defaults to finding problems, right? So part of it is, even though you're not going through anything, really, your mind makes up adversity, because that's our brain. Like, we like the challenge, we look for problems. That's the brain's job, is to look for problems to keep us safe. So in one nutshell, there's us creating, that the kid creates adversity in their mind to have something to overcome. There's not a lot of, they're not purpose driven necessarily. There's not that bigger thing outside of themselves. And then they've got all these hormones coming in, and, you know, maybe they've got some stuff going on at school. It doesn't matter whether or not you think that their life is hard or not. because you can't experience what they experience fully. No one can. No one can step into my shoes fully and really know 100% what it is to be me. No one. You can get close. I've had people almost like read my fucking mind. Really close. But no one can actually be me. So no one will truly 100% understand what I've gone through in my life and what I've experienced and how I see myself in the world through my eyes. So when we sit there and we say, yeah, but life isn't that hard for you, who the fuck are you to say that? Like, when you diminish someone's experience, regardless of whether it's real, whether it's a made-up story, whether it's untrue, whether it's a belief that they have, whether it's not that bad, when you diminish their emotions that way, that's extremely damaging for anyone, especially a child. And again, I'm not trying to blame parents. Like, I'm not sitting here being like, fuck you parents, you guys are all assholes, and you better watch out or your kid's gonna be a psycho or a drug addict or kill themselves. That's not what I'm saying. Because kids need to learn ownership too. Like, and that's part of the, like, I'm blessed, period, for how I was raised. Everything good, bad, and ugly. But like, my grandmother made me do laundry. Started with doing laundry. Showed me how to do laundry at a very young age. I had chores at a very young age to teach me responsibility. And there was certain old school values that I'm really glad that I got. That I see that some kids today don't have. So kids, teenagers, they have the opportunity to take that accountability and ownership as well for certain things, and they could definitely stand to have more responsibility. But it's opening the lines of communication, and it's understanding that, and I'm speaking mostly to the kids, if there's any young people watching, and really anyone in life, because adults commit suicide too, but whatever emotion you're feeling, like, it'll pass. Like, I can remember being locked in a bathroom, high on cocaine and ecstasy. I don't know how I didn't have a heart attack, to be honest. High on cocaine and ecstasy, locked in a bathroom. I was seeing things that weren't there, and my heart was just beating out of my chest, and I was sweating, and I couldn't catch my breath, and I felt like I was going insane, and I put myself in the bathtub, and I was running water on me to try to bring my temperature down, because I could feel like my internal temperature was rising. And I was really scared. And the people that were there, because one of them was a dealer, I begged them to call the hospital. Like, I said, I need an ambulance. And they said, no, you're going to be fine, because they didn't want police or ambulance or, anybody there, because there was a bunch of drugs there. It was a drug house. And I can just remember thinking, like, I'm going to die. And eventually that moment passed. And I can remember, and if you read my blog posts talking about my abortion and those emotions and that pain, physically and emotionally, that I went through, and just being like, there's so many times I've said to God, I just want to die. This is fucked. I can't take this. I can't handle this anymore. So many times. But I'm here. Because I could handle it, and I did handle it, and I did get through it. And that's my point, is that whatever it is that you think that you can't get past, there's always a way. There's always a way. Always. Doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter what it is. And you ending your life, yes, that ends it for you. You don't have to deal with whatever it is that you don't have to deal with anymore, sure. But the people that love you in your life are forever going to be scarred by that. They're always going to wonder what they did. They're always going to blame themselves. A part of them's always going to blame themselves. And it's like you've got 1,000 pages in your book of life, and you've only, written the first 50. That the story isn't already written for you. You're the one that gets to write it. You're the one that gets to choose what happens to you in your life. You're the one that gets to choose how you respond to the things happening in your life. You get to write your story. And when you're ending it, so quickly. You're missing out on all of the beautiful opportunities. Everything will get better. And I know people that have ended their life. I know people that have killed themselves. And if I could just go back, if I could just go back and just like grab them and be like, listen, I know it feels hopeless. I know it feels like it'll never get better. I know it feels like these emotions are never going to go away, but holy fucking shit, they do. Because I felt helpless. I felt totally fucking apathetic. When I got off drugs, I thought being on drugs was kind of fucked. Getting off drugs was so fucked. So fucked. Like, I was seeing things that weren't there. I was hallucinating things that weren't there. And when I was high, I was hallucinating really fucked up shit. Really, like men hanging from trees, holding dead babies with bleeding eyes. I saw children with glowing eyes in my bedroom coming up to my bed, and I was just like, holy fuck. One time I saw my grandmother and my grandfather dancing in the hallway, and then all of a sudden my grandmother's back just broke in half. And one time I saw the chick from The Ring, that movie The Ring, she was sitting in a wheelchair. Like, horror movies appeared in real life in front of my eyes. And then it got to a point where I was hallucinating when I wasn't high. I wasn't even high, I wasn't even using it, I was still seeing things that weren't there. I thought I was going completely fucking insane. And believe me, I wanted to die. Rather than be the person that sees these fucked up things. But I didn't. And it's not because I'm stronger than the people that killed themselves. It's not that. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is that kept me going. I just know that now looking back, I know that there's nothing that can be thrown at me that I cannot handle because I've gone through it. I've overcome it. So if you're sitting in it and you feel like, yeah, that's nice, but you don't understand. Yeah, that's nice, but I do. I may not know exactly what you're going through because I'm not you, but I know what it's like to feel the most desperate, hopeless pain you can ever imagine. I know what that feels like. And I'm telling you that, yes, while you'll be scarred, yes, you'll never really get over some things. Some things never go away. Some things just walk with you. But you're never given anything you can't handle. And you're meant to be here. You have a purpose, but that purpose is whatever you give it. You're the one that has to make the purpose, no one else. And like, really, at the end of the day, it can always get better. It's your choice. You can make your life better. And there are people in this world that love you. There are people in this world that admire you and you don't even know them. Thanks to social media, people from fucking New Zealand or whatever all over the world can follow you and see what you're doing and whatever, read your quotes and shit. You may have saved someone else's life. You never fucking know. You helped that old lady across the street and she's just like, man, I thought everyone was assholes. Every person in this fucking neighborhood was an asshole, but that person helped me across the street. I'm so happy today. Like, you impact people. You impact people that you don't know, you don't realize, you don't see. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, which means that there's purpose for you. So even though you may not have this grandiose purpose in your mind and not really know why you're here and be struggling and think that your life is shit and you should just end it, every single day you're impacting people. Every single day you're making a difference. Every single day you have purpose. It all depends on what you focus on. So I hope that story resonates with you. And I hope you understand that, like, life is really fucking beautiful if you allow yourself to focus on the beauty in it. And your pain, you harness that shit, and that can be your fucking power. That can be your strength. You overcome whatever it is that you're going through right now, and then you have the ability to help someone else. Your pain is a gift. Your struggle is a gift. It shapes you. You're building yourself right now. That's what you're doing. You're not being torn down. You're being built. But it's painful. But you can't give up on yourself. You can't. It's not a fucking option. You don't get to cop out. Because this world needs you. And if you ever need to reach out, you can follow me on Instagram at AuthenticallyAmandaG. Visit my website, www.amandagiroux.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can send me a message. If you're hopeless, feeling hopeless, because you're not actually hopeless, I'm fucking telling you, I'm a direct result. Things get fucking better.